How many plane crashes have occurred since the beginning? It is difficult to provide an exact number of plane crashes that have occurred since the beginning of aviation, as records of aviation accidents were not always comprehensive, and some incidents may not have been reported or documented. However, according to the Aviation Safety Network, there have been a total of 23,736 aviation accidents and incidents, including both commercial and military operations, since the beginning of aviation history. Out of these incidents, there were 6,621 accidents that resulted in fatalities, with a total of 112,675 fatalities. It is important to note that the number of fatalities from plane crashes has decreased significantly over the years, as advancements in technology and safety measures have been implemented. Which country has the most number of ships sunk in the sea? It is difficult to determine which country has had the most number of ships sunk in the sea, as maritime disasters can happen for a variety of reasons, such as natural disasters, human error, and warfare, and can involve ships from various countries. However, during World War II, many ships from various countries were sunk, and some countries suffered greater losses than others. For example, the United Kingdom had more than 2,200 merchant ships and fishing vessels sunk during the war, while the United States lost around 1,100 merchant and naval ships. In terms of civilian maritime disasters, some countries have experienced multiple incidents over the years. For example, the Philippines has had a number of ferry and passenger ship accidents, some of which have resulted in significant loss of life. It is important to note that the number of ships sunk is not necessarily an indication of a country's safety record or competence in maritime operations, as maritime disasters can occur due to a variety of factors beyond a country's control. Did planes destroy ships? Yes, planes have been used to destroy ships, particularly during times of war. Aircraft can carry bombs, torpedoes, or other munitions that can be used to attack and sink ships. During World War II, for example, both Allied and Axis powers used planes to attack ships in the Atlantic, Pacific, and Mediterranean theaters. German U-boats also used planes to scout for and attack Allied ships. In modern times, planes continue to be used in military operations to attack ships, such as during the Gulf War in 1991, when coalition forces used planes to attack and destroy Iraqi naval vessels. It is important to note that attacking civilian ships is a violation of international law and can result in serious consequences. The use of planes to destroy ships is typically reserved for military operations, and is not a common occurrence in peacetime. Were the ships destroyed by submarines? Yes. Submarines have been used to destroy ships throughout history, particularly during times of war. Submarines are uniquely suited to sneak up on surface ships undetected, and can launch torpedoes or other weapons to sink them. During World War II, for example, German U-boats used torpedoes to sink Allied ships in the Atlantic, while Allied submarines also attacked Axis ships. The sinking of civilian ships, such as the Lusitania in 1915 and the Titanic in 1912, were also attributed to submarine attacks. In modern times, submarines continue to be used in military operations to attack ships, although advances in technology have made it more difficult for submarines to operate undetected. It is important to note that attacking civilian ships is a violation of international law and can result in serious consequences. The use of submarines to destroy ships is typically reserved for military operations, and is not a common occurrence in peacetime. Which country is most powerful in submarines today? It is difficult to determine which country is the most powerful in submarines, as submarine capabilities can be classified information and not publicly available. However, some countries are known to have significant submarine fleets and advanced submarine technology. The United States, Russia, and China are generally considered to have the largest and most advanced submarine fleets in the world. Each of these countries has a range of submarine classes and capabilities, including nuclear-powered submarines, which can operate underwater for extended periods without needing to surface for air. Other countries with significant submarine fleets include the United Kingdom, France, India, and Japan. It is important to note that submarine capabilities are only one aspect of a country's overall military power and strategic influence. A country's military strength also depends on a range of other factors, including air and ground capabilities, cyber capabilities, economic power, and diplomatic influence. When was the Battle of Ships and Submarines? I'm sorry, but there is no specific battle of ships and submarines that I am aware of. Submarines and ships have engaged in many battles and conflicts throughout history, particularly during times of war, and it is possible that there have been multiple battles that involved both ships and submarines. How do airplanes fight? Airplanes can fight in a variety of ways depending on the situation and the objectives of the mission. In military operations, airplanes are often used for offensive and defensive purposes, such as attacking enemy targets, providing support to ground troops, and engaging in aerial combat. Aerial combat, also known as dogfighting, involves airplanes engaging each other in combat maneuvers, such as turning, diving, and firing weapons, in an attempt to gain an advantage and shoot down the enemy aircraft. Aerial combat can take place at various altitudes, from low-level engagements over land to high-altitude dogfights in the stratosphere. In addition to aerial combat, airplanes can also be used for ground attacks, such as bombing missions and strafing runs, in which the airplane fires its weapons at ground targets. Airplanes can also be used for reconnaissance, gathering intelligence and information about enemy positions and movements. Modern airplanes can be equipped with a range of weapons and technologies, including missiles, bombs, guns, and electronic warfare systems, to enhance their fighting capabilities. How are rockets fired? Rockets are fired by a process called rocket propulsion. The basic principle of rocket propulsion is that a rocket engine generates a powerful thrust by expelling a stream of gases out of its rear end, in accordance with Newton's third law of motion. The gases are forced out of a nozzle at the rear of the rocket, creating a reaction force that propels the rocket forward. The rocket is typically launched from a launch pad or platform, which provides a stable base for the rocket and controls its initial trajectory. The rocket is ignited, and the engines fired to generate the necessary thrust to lift the rocket off the launch pad and into the air. As the rocket ascends, the engines continue to fire, providing the necessary thrust to maintain the rocket's velocity and altitude. Who has more forces?